I think we're supposed to feel a little bit sorry for him, but I don't. We already live essentially in a dystopian world. I think I did tear up a bit. I'm such a baby. Ugh, I saw it coming. I just really wish it didn't. Hey guys, it's Crystal and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another bi-monthly reading wrap-up. So today I am doing my wrap-up of September and October, all the books that I read in the past 2 months. And I have a lot to say about the books that I read over the past 2 months. I'm hoping that I can stick to my notes and get through them fairly quickly because I have a lot to say. And we all know I love to ramble. So we're gonna see how we go. But this video does have the potential to be like 2 hours long. Anyway, also channeling my inner horse girl today for whatever reason. I was already wearing this shirt and I just couldn't be bothered changing because it is so hot. It is just November. It is the 2nd of November when I'm filming this. And it is already boiling hot. We had one of the hottest days ever last week. That's possibly an exaggeration, I don't actually know, but it was so hot. I was actually vlogging, so depending on when this video goes up, before or after that, you'll see that we actually lost power on one of the hottest days. And summer has not even started and the summer storms are here. We've had, I think, storms, afternoon storms, the last 3 days. Regardless, we have had like at least 4 storms already this week alone. And something to know about me is that I hate storms. I do not like them. And we're not even summer yet and it's already starting. Anyway, beginning ramble over. Let's get into all the books that I read in October. No, September. Let's get into all the books that I read in September. Starting off strong with When Among Crows by Veronica. You've probably heard about this going around because it's been quite popular recently. I've seen a number of people talking about it, but this is, I don't know if it would be defined as a short story or a novella. I'm not really sure the differences, but it is less than 200 pages. And When Among Crows is a Slavic mythology inspired urban fantasy where we follow Demeter. Sorry if I'm butchering that pronunciation, but I've looked it up and there's multiple different pronunciations, so I don't really know which one it is. Again, apologies if it's wrong. We follow Demeter, a man in possession of a magical flower that he wants to trade in order to find the powerful and ancient witch Baba Yaga, because he has an impossible task that only she can help him with. So while he's searching for a contact, Demeter meets Allah. Again, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Azmora or Mora, whichever one, and she has an incurable blood curse, which will eventually make her go crazy, I think. And her last option, she is desperate, her last option is to team up with Demeter, even though she has no idea who he is, and she doesn't trust him at all. So then we follow them over the course of one night in Chicago on this little adventure that they go on. And I really enjoyed this book. In case you didn't know, Veronica Roth is the author of the Divergent series, which I did not like. So going into this book, I was a little bit hesitant. I wasn't really sure if this was gonna be up my alley, but her writing style feels completely different. It has been a long time since I've read the Divergent series, so maybe I'm just making things up. This book is so well written. I really admire her ability to fit such a like rich world and magic system, good characters and character development and like relationship dynamics, and a fast-paced like interesting story into less than 200 pages. Hello. Like I said, it takes place in Chicago and it's got like a real gritty, grungy sort of vibe to it, which I feel she really brought to life. Like you could feel there's some like yucky moments. I just feel the like grit in this book. I don't know really how to explain it, but I just feel like I'm in it. This might be a wild take, but I feel like if you want a little bit of a darker version of the Shadowhunters, specifically the Mortal Instruments, like the first 3 books that take place in the city, but there's this magical secret world, they kind of have similar vibes to me. I was getting that kind of feeling from it. I loved Demeter and Allah. I think Demeter's character was written so well. I do wish we had gotten just a little bit more backstory of Allah. And we also have a kind of third main character, although they don't come into play like until a little bit later. And I do feel like we didn't get enough time with that character for me to truly connect to them. But there is a second book that just came out, I believe. So I would assume that we get a little bit more time with that character, as well as our other two main characters, for us to kind of get to know them more. And on that, on that same vein, the only issue I had with this book is that it needed to be longer. We needed just a few more pages just to fit in like a couple more scenes of character development and relationship development, or just like scenes of the characters connecting for their story to develop properly into its like full potential. Beautiful, beautiful book. I really enjoyed my time with this book, and I will be reading the sequel, hopefully soon. I give it a tentative 4 stars because I do think that this has potential to go up to 5 stars depending on how I feel just over time. I did really, really enjoy this book, so sort of a 4 stars, maybe more. That was When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. 10 out of 10, give it a go. Please, I beg you. The next book is EXO by Fonda Lee. This one I have a lot to say about. I'm going to try and stick to my notes. First and foremost, I love Fonda Lee. Jade City, Untethered Sky, absolutely adore them both. And I have been trying to get into sci-fi a little bit more, and EXO is a sci-fi dystopian book. So I thought this would be a good bet because, well, essentially just because I like Fonda Lee. This is a young adult book, like I said, sci-fi dystopian, that takes place on Earth many years in the future after aliens invaded and conquered Earth and we became a colony of their home planet. It's been, I think, a century since Earth was conquered, and humans and aliens now live in relative peace. Our main character Donovan is the son of the Prime Liaison. The Prime Liaison is essentially just like a diplomat between the humans and the aliens. I think he's the leader of collaboration between the two of them. I don't really know, but he's an important figure. And Donovan is also an EXO. And an EXO, or an exocell, is something that humans undergo as children to essentially, they get like an implant in their bodies of this exocell, which to me I was picturing as the nanotech from Tony's suit in Marvel. Something that like acts as armor underneath or on top of their skin, I'm not really sure, because they're kind of like security, not security. I'd say that they're probably close to FBI or CIA, a step above police officers, in that sort of area. But while on a mission, Donovan gets taken by a terrorist organization. And when they realize who he is, who his father is, they think that they found like the best bargaining chip ever to negotiate with the government, because this terrorist group is against the alien rule. But the Prime Liaison does not negotiate with terrorists, full stop. Not even to save his son. So now Donovan is stuck in this terrorist group, and he's kind of screwed, and he's just got to navigate how he can survive and get out of this place. This book and I didn't really click, which was quite devastating for me to realize, because as I said, I love Fonda Lee and I was fully expecting to love this book. I ended up coming to some realizations while reading this book that made me realize that this book was just never going to be my cup of tea. I did touch on this in my last video, How to Find Your Personal Taste. One being, I don't really like the dystopian genre. The only books that I've ever loved in the dystopian genre are The Hunger Games, and that is purely because of the character development and the way the characters are written, because they're amazing. The relationship dynamics between the characters, how layered they are, the actual story and the correlations and comparisons to our real world, and just Suzanne Collins' mind in general. The backdrop, however, of The Hunger Games, or like any dystopian book, I'm not really a fan of. The general atmosphere of dystopian books is just not something I'm drawn to. I prefer fantasy where the backdrop is like magical. When it's dystopian, we already live essentially in a dystopian world. I don't really want to be reading a book where it's just our world but worse, and fully something that our world could become. That's just a little bit too depressing for me. So dystopian, just not really for me, which I knew before this book, but I just kind of forgot because I'd only read The Hunger Games in recent times. The other realization I had is that when it comes to sci-fi, I need space opera sci-fi. I don't want like a little bit of alien technology. I want there to be 50 new alien races. I want there to be spaceships. I want to be traveling through black holes. No, wormholes, whatever the things are that like you teleport through, those ones. I want to have crazy adventures in space, okay? I want to be deep in outer space. EXO is very mildly sci-fi. We have aliens, we have alien technology, but nothing that crazy. It takes place on Earth. The main focus of the book is the struggle between the two human opposing sides. So all that being said, this book from the get-go is just probably not for me. Book might be your next favorite book. Now onto the actual content of the book. I was intrigued by the premise, but I feel like the main conflict presented to us in the blurb, which is Donovan getting kidnapped by this terrorist group, is resolved so quickly. It is kind of underwhelming. It's over and done with really early on, and honestly nothing that dramatic happens. And the fact that it happens so early on means that we get like zero time with Donovan in his life before the book starts. I don't have any connection to his friends. I barely have connection to Donovan. I just wasn't invested in him, in this conflict being resolved either way, because I didn't know what I wanted for him. Yeah, he needs to be released from the terrorist group, but am I gonna get flagged for saying terrorist on YouTube? I don't know. Maybe I'll silence that. This, the name of the group is Sapiens, so I'll just call it that from now on. I was like, obviously he needs to get out of Sapiens, but at the same time, nothing that bad is happening. And also, I don't really care if he goes back to his friends because I don't know them. Along those lines, I have to say, surprisingly and sadly, that a lot of the characters for me fell flat. And I say surprisingly because in Jade City, one of the main things I love is the relationship dynamics between all the characters and the characters themselves. It is all so layered and like juicy, and it just didn't hit in EXO. I will say though, in terms of characters and a theme of the book overall, something that Fonda did really well is exploring the grey areas that are often brought up in dystopian books, except a lot of dystopian books tend to have like the good side and the bad side. For example, Hunger Games, capital, bad. The districts, good for the most part. And generally the individuals on the whole can fit into one or the other. In EXO, every single individual, even the like arguably straight up evil ones, have good sides to them. They have redeeming qualities. And almost every single person has some sort of conflicting feeling towards whichever side they're part of. And we come to know over the course of the story that the organizations themselves have good aspects and bad aspects to them. Like, it's all very measured in showing us that one side doesn't fit into one box, essentially. I forgot to say, coming back to like the beginning where the main conflict I thought was going to be the kidnapping and it just wasn't, the rest of the book, I felt like we were kind of meandering through the plot. I just felt like I was continuously waiting for the main plot to start. But yeah, it was still engaging enough for me to finish. I still liked this book. It just didn't really do it for me. I can appreciate that aspects of this book were good, like the discussion of like morality and good and bad and that sort of thing. If you like sci-fi dystopian books, then definitely give this book a go. Also, the aliens that invaded Earth, the only thing I could picture was the aliens from the movie Home, the Booth. It is 110% an accurate visual depiction of these aliens in EXO. Definitely. I gave EXO 3.25 stars. And I actually finished a different book in between EXO and Crossfire, but I'm going to talk about them one after the other just to keep it together. I cannot explain anything about the plot of Crossfire without spoiling EXO. Basic plot, everything has hit the fan. It's chaos, disaster has struck, and Donovan is quite literally the only person willing and trying to put everything back together again. So he's really having a just a fine and dandy time in this book, truly. I hoped that in Crossfire we would address some of the issues that I had in EXO. Number one being the lack of connection I felt to Donovan's friends, and giving, I don't know how to explain it, like grounding Donovan's personal life in a way, because I feel like we just weren't connected to his life before this book. Like I said, I don't know what I want for him because I don't know what he wants. But again, it just didn't happen. There is at least a stronger direction with the plot in Crossfire. But at this point, because I just didn't care about the characters, I cared a little bit about Donovan, but not that much. Because I just couldn't bring myself to care all that much about the characters, I didn't care about the plot. So despite the fact that this had a little bit more direction, I was already kind of checked out. And I was just reading it to finish it and to satiate like my mild curiosity about how it all panned out, how it concluded. There were definitely moments in this book that I enjoyed. It's just not enough for me to really like reading this book, and I felt like I was dragging myself through it a bit, and I just didn't want to be doing that because I know that there were other books that I could have been reading, spending my time reading, that I would absolutely enjoy. So with 90 pages left, so close, I decided to DNF this book. I'm saying it as if it's some dramatic thing, but truly I'm happy with that decision. It just wasn't the book for me. It could be the book for you, so again, I would still recommend that you check it out. But yeah, unfortunately, this just didn't work out for me. That was EXO and Crossfire by Fonda. I'm only on my third book and I've already been sitting here for well over 20 minutes. Okay, speed run time. This is a short one so we can do it quickly. Artificial Condition by Martha Wells is a book that I read in between EXO and Crossfire. I listened to the audiobook because the audiobooks are 3 hours long. So quick and easy, love that. Artificial Condition is the second book in the Murderbot Diaries, and also a book off of my end of year TBR, so I wanted to get this checked off because it's so easy. It's a 3-hour listen, like done and dusted. So in this book we follow Murderbot as it tries to discover the truth of its past in which a massacre occurred, but it doesn't really know the who, the what, the when, the how, the why. And Murderbot is not sure if it is the one responsible for said massacre, and it wants to find out. So Murderbot teams up with this, I think it's a spaceship, but it's sentient, it has like a brain. That sounded kind of rude. Anyway, I love this spaceship. This spaceship is called Art, but you don't want to know what the A is for. That's a quote from the blurb. Anyway, Murderbot teams up with Art to travel back to the site, I think it's a job site, where this all happened. All Systems Red, the first book, was super fun, but I think I enjoyed Artificial Condition even more. The dynamic between Murderbot and Art was so funny and like oddly sweet. I feel that we also get to know Murderbot on a bit of a deeper level in this book. One, because yes, it is discovering its past and we're kind of going on that journey with Murderbot, which is kind of emotional, not gonna lie. I think I did tear up a bit. I'm such a baby. Ugh. But also because I feel like Murderbot is coming into itself a bit, purely out of necessity, but it is kind of integrating itself into human, what do you call it? Day-to-day human life, culture, whatever. Interacting with humans, and I feel like we really get to see Murderbot like on the spot in more of a natural situation compared to All Systems Red, where it was a job for him. So these are unknown situations for Murderbot. This is just like a really funny series, but it has kind of a lot of heart at the center of it. This is sci-fi, which is like in space. So we have these Murderbots, which are robots, but they're alive. We have a sentient spaceship. There's augmented humans, so they have certain parts of them that are augmented. Wow. Certain parts of them that are like artificially modified, and we travel through space and go to different space stations and stuff like that, and it's just, I just love it. This is a really good book to pick up if you're in a reading slump and you need something quick and engaging, because again, the audiobook is 3 hours long. Also, a really good book if you're new to sci-fi, because it's not difficult to understand at all because they're so short. It's not really getting into all the nitty-gritty of sci-fi. It gives you a basic understanding without overcomplicating things. I gave this 4 stars and I am very excited to continue reading this series, but I think I will keep them for every now and then instead of like binging them all in one go. But yeah, Artificial Condition by Martha Wells, love. Then we get onto Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. This is another one I have a lot to say about. Before I get started, I really loved this book. I feel like I'm starting this out giving you the expectation that I didn't enjoy this book, but I did, trust me. I just have a lot to say about it. So after reading 3 sci-fi books in a row, I decided to go back to trusty old fantasy. This is a young adult fantasy inspired by West African mythology and culture. And we follow our main character Tarasai, who has been raised in mostly isolation by her mostly absent and kind of mysterious mother, who only goes by the lady. Because why not? And in this world that this book takes place in, princes of this kingdom are born with a magic called the Ray, and as children and as they grow up, they must choose a council of 11 other children, one from each, would you say, not country, one from every like section of the empire, basically. And through the magic of the Ray, it forms a closer bond than family between the prince and this council. Tarasai, having been raised in isolation and having never felt that closeness of family or just kind of love in general from her mother, she is desperate to join this council and experience that form of connection. But her mother has sent there with an ulterior motive. If Tarasai cannot overcome her mother's magical command, then she will kill the prince. Like I said, I loved this book. I was so invested from the get-go. I feel like this concept of the Ray and the magic in this book or series, because it's a duology, is so unique to this book, as well as the fact of a royal council being genuinely like family and not just random royal council members who kind of hate the king or each other or whatever. They are chosen to participate and become candidates, and they grow up together in the castle until the prince chooses his full council. So they are genuinely like family. I was captivated throughout this entire book. I loved every minute of it, and I really liked the way Jordan wrote her characters. Tarasai had like, you could just feel the depth between each character. I can't explain it, but the characters that we meet immediately just feel like real people, and that, as you may know, is the one thing I search for. My main priority in every single book is for them to feel like real people. The relationship between Tarasai and the prince, they are fully soulmates, and it's so sweet, as well as Tarasai's relationship with a couple of the other council siblings. Just so endearing, and I really enjoyed reading about these characters. I was attached to them immediately, but there are 11 council siblings, and like once they're all chosen, we only really get to know kind of 2 of the other council siblings as well as the prince. And considering the whole pitch of this concept is that the entire council are closer than family, closer than blood, there is a sickness that happens to them if they are apart for too long. We barely got to know any of the other characters aside from like Tarasai and her 3 best friends. When you give me a concept where the whole main point of it is that they are like so close that it's a bond stronger than family, and you don't actually give me that, guys, come on. I loved the relationships that we did get, but I just wish that it extended to the entire council. A couple things that I really liked that Jordan did with this book: 1, subverting stereotypes or tropes to a degree. I don't know if that's the best term for it, but there are a couple plot lines that could have gone in a very typical tropey kind of way, and they didn't. And I really appreciate that. That was just, the first time it happened, I was like, I was celebrating. I was so happy that we did not go in the direction that it could have gone, because I just think that would have just, it just would have cheapened the book for me. I just wouldn't have, it wouldn't have hit. Also, at the beginning of this book, we follow Tarasai through a few glimpses of her younger years. In Other books that I've read that have included that sort of style where we might be seeing the story in bits and pieces, it has felt like we've been removed from the character and the story, almost like we were being told it from a distance. But Jordan managed to make me feel like I was in the story with Tarasai no matter at what point in her life we were at. The plot was fantastic. I was intrigued right until the end. While I did predict a number of the plot twists, the tension and the stakes stayed like high throughout the entire thing. The ending was kind of crazy and we didn't get a lot of time to wrap it all up / see the aftermath and like the reactions of it, but still as a whole I really loved this book and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Now onto October, I went straight into reading Redemptor, which is the second book in this duology. For obvious reasons I cannot explain the plot, but Tarasai now has a big challenge / a main goal that she is working towards in this book. If I recall correctly, Redemptor picks up a couple of months after the ending of Raybearer. We do get a little bit of the reactions to the ending of Raybearer in the start of Redemptor, which I was glad for, but we kind of focus on one person's reaction rather than everyone's. And for the first few chapters I was really excited that we were going to resolve my issues with the first book in regards to the other council members, and we were going to focus on that connection between Tarasai and the other council members. But that excitement was unfortunately short-lived. In fact, after those first few chapters, Tarasai spends barely any time at all with her other council siblings. I actually don't remember if I said this when I was talking about Raybearer, but I feel like there were too many characters to be able to focus on them all properly and give them all enough time to develop. And that is doubled in Redemptor because we have almost an entirely new cast of characters added to this book. And sadly, I found the same thing with Raybearer, that we just weren't given enough time to connect with them all. I wasn't overly satisfied with the plot of Redemptor either. Like I said, Tarasai is given this like main goal to focus towards in Redemptor at the end of Raybearer. And it's kind of not even a main focus of a large part of this book. Most of this book is spent on other aspects of the plot, which is fine. I enjoyed those other storylines as well, but it just felt like the balance of the plot was a little bit off to me. There's also one plot line that I just really don't like in books, movies, whatever it may be, and that is characters not communicating when they need to. Sometimes there is good reason to, depending on the character, depending on the story, circumstance, whatever. In this instance, I don't feel like Tarasai had good enough reason to not communicate. It just wasn't reason enough for me to not get frustrated with this aspect of the story and for me to not get annoyed at Tarasai. Regardless, I still loved this series. Tarasai's relationship with Dio, the prince, is so sweet, like I said. Tarasai's romance was also really cute for the most part, and she also has a really beautiful friendship with her best friend. The world, the magic, and like so many other aspects is absolutely wonderful, and I highly recommend it. I'm so glad that I read this series. I gave Redemptor 3.75 stars. The next book I read was Pride and Prejudice. I finally read Pride and Prejudice, and this is also the only physical copy that I have for this whole video. Now, I'm sure for most of you this book doesn't need any introduction, but in case you don't know the plot of Pride and Prejudice, I'll give you a little bit of an overview. We follow Elizabeth Bennet and her family, the book picking up when 2 young, eligible, hot and wealthy bachelors come to town, and Elizabeth's mother is hellbent on matching her eldest daughter Jane with Mr. Bingley, one of these young bachelors. Elizabeth, on the other hand, immediately takes a disliking to Mr. Bingley's best friend, Mr. Darcy, due to his disdainful attitude and poor manners. But throughout the course of this book, events continue to bring them together, and their lives and feelings may or may not become intertwined in a way neither of them really wanted nor anticipated. I love Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 movie with Keira Knightley. I rewatched that at least 5 times a year. To be so honest, I was kind of scared that the book wouldn't quite live up to my expectations because I love the movie so much and because it's such a beloved story, but I needn't have worried. This was a 5-star read for me and wild take, but I was mildly upset that we didn't get some of the scenes in the movie that we get in the book. I know, who has ever said that about any book to movie adaptation ever? The language in this book is definitely an adjustment. I don't think it's really the writing style, it's just the language of the time when this was written. They take about 20 sentences to say something that could be said in 8. It got better as I went on when I was like falling into the language a little bit easier. But yeah, at the beginning I was like, why? Just say what you mean. But the good thing about that is that because what they say is so like hidden amongst so many unnecessary words, is that what they say often has a lot more hidden meaning and depth to it compared to what is written in a lot of books nowadays. I feel like you could continuously reread this book and you would never stop finding new meanings and hints and Easter eggs and whatever in what they say. I was definitely more invested in the second half of the book compared to the first. I've seen people say that Pride and Prejudice is boring and a bit of a slice of life kind of book, which isn't necessarily wrong in terms of slice of life. I can see where people are coming from, especially for the first half, because we spend a lot of time focused on Lizzie's family rather than Lizzie herself and the relationship between Lizzie and Mr. Darcy. That doesn't really have a lot of forward momentum until the second half of the book. That being said, I was still so invested every time I picked up this book, and I was really sad for it to be over. I read this over the course of a few weeks, so I spent a good chunk of time in this book and with these characters, and yeah, I was really sad to finish, to get to the last page. In terms of romance, oh my god, the way Darcy got brutally rejected by Lizzie and told to his face every single one of his faults, and he was like, you know what, you might have a point there, let me just disappear for a few months and change everything about myself. I also love how Lizzie fully switched up after seeing the Pemberley estate. I see you, no shade, because same. I'm kidding. She was already falling for Darcy before she went to see Pemberley, plus the fact that he like was acting completely different. But I wouldn't necessarily disregard the idea that seeing Pemberley played a major part in Lizzie's change of heart. Anyway, like I said, 5 stars, love this. This is definitely a book that I'm going to come back to all the time because, like I said, I love the movie, and yeah, it's just like a comforting read, and it's the romance to end all romance. After that, I read Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier. Returning to fantasy, my one true love. Wildwood Dancing is a book about 5 daughters that live in a castle on the edge of Transylvanian woods with their widower father. Ever since they were young, on the night of the full moon, they have ventured into the fairy kingdom through a secret passage in their room. But their father is falling more and more ill, and to be able to survive this winter, he has to leave the castle and stay in a warmer climate for the duration of winter, leaving Jenna, the second oldest daughter, and her older sister Tati in charge of running the castle and looking after their younger sisters. Not long after their father leaves, their cousin Chezar swoops in, claiming his presence is there to support his cousins during this time, but he definitely has an ulterior motive, and he's definitely not a very nice person. Not only that, but he hates fairies, and the girls' secret midnight trips to the other kingdom may soon be coming to an end. The atmosphere of this book is magnificent. If you're craving like a whimsical romantic fairy book that feels like an old fairy tale or like a childhood memory, this is absolutely the book to pick up. And when I say romantic, I don't mean romantic in terms of the romance storyline in this book, because the romance is kind of questionable, but the way it is written is just like a romantic kind of feeling to it. It's also very reminiscent of the 12 Dancing Princesses. There were parts of this book that I had so much fun with, the atmosphere being one of them, as well as the fairies. The fairies in this book are much closer to the traditional idea of fairies that are like mischievous, sometimes a little bit evil, a little bit funny looking. That kind of representation of fairies is my favorite when it comes to fairy books. There were also parts of this book that I really didn't like. Our main character Jenna I liked most of the time, but we are told that she is this really smart, opinionated, strong-willed young girl, and yet throughout this entire book she lets herself get walked all over by her cousin. There was a very simple fix for her issues and she just didn't do it. I obviously can't go into too much detail about what happened exactly, but around the midpoint of this book I was so frustrated that she wasn't doing anything to help herself. And then her sister Tati, oh my god, this girl made me so mad. Tati's main storyline in this book is her romance. She kind of has no other storyline outside of that, and if you don't want any spoilers, maybe skip ahead to this timestamp, but I had a strong issue with the way that her romance was depicted. Now that everyone's god, who doesn't want spoilers. Essentially, Tati falls in love with one of the night people, which are kind of vampires, but they're never called vampires because Juliet Marillier has like a whole section at the back of the book about why they're not referred to as vampires in this book, but we can just picture them as vampires. And they are evil. They are known to be evil. They kill people. Tati falls in love with this guy who she's met a couple of times, and from that point on, all she cares about is this boy. She shirks all her responsibilities of being the eldest daughter, of looking after the castle, of helping Jenna deal with their cousin, to wallow every moment that she is not with her little boyfriend. Again, spoiler warning, but she stops eating and almost dies of starvation and sadness because she can't be with this guy that she barely knows. I was just left wondering, what is the point of this storyline? What is the message that you're trying to send with it? That it's like totally chill and okay to abandon your entire life and your sisters that rely on you to pine after this boy that you don't know? Like, sure, fairy tales and true love and everything, but you don't have to starve yourself. Also, she does not know him. Genuinely, they met maybe a handful of times at the most. If this was real life, give her like a few months and then she'll be realizing, oh, he was just like a little rat boy. I can't believe I did all that for a guy. So her character just like really confused me, and I didn't like her at all, and I didn't like that storyline at all. I didn't care about their romance. I genuinely did not care, and it just made zero sense to me. The other romance, Jenna's romance, I liked it a little bit more. It has its own issues, weird issues, but if you put them aside, that was cute. I liked them. One thing that I both loved and hated about this book is how well Juliet made me despise Cesar, their cousin. I cannot remember the last time that I felt such visceral hatred towards a character. I think we're supposed to feel a little bit sorry for him, but I don't. I think the last time I felt such disgust towards a character was the Nightbringer in the Amber Quartet, specifically the first two books. If you know, you know. Cesar just made my blood boil. I hated every time that he was on the page. Get him out of here. I don't want him. Oh my god. Jenna also has a frog called Gogu. He's so cute. I love that little guy. Overall though, I did have a lot of fun with this book, and I would definitely recommend it to my fellow fairy lovers. I would say that the vibes and atmosphere of this book heavily carried my enjoyment. Well, no, I liked the writing style. I don't know. It's hard to describe. There were aspects that I didn't like, but overall, I have fond memory. Can I not say that? I have fond memories of this book, of reading this book. I gave this 3 stars, which feels a little bit harsh. I think it could go up a bit, but Tati's whole storyline just really did not mesh well with me. So I don't know. I feel like if in time with some reflection, maybe it could change, but for now it's 3 stars, and that is Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier. Finally, onto the last book that I read in October. I've been recording for over an hour. Anyway, I ended the month on a little young adult romance, which is Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. Lynn Painter is the author of Better Than the Movies, this very beloved booktok book, and we follow Danny and Alec, who used to be best friends. For 1 month every summer growing up, Danny and her mum would return to her mum's hometown, and it was Danny and Alec's favorite part of every year. In the meantime, throughout the rest of the year, they would send postcards to one another every single week. That was until Alex stopped sending his postcards. And now they haven't spoken in 5 years. Great, fantastic. Danny's parents have now divorced, and her and her mum are moving back to her mum's hometown, and Danny is hopeful that she can rekindle her friendship with Alec. But Alec is now the star of the hockey team, and he is completely uninterested in being friends with her again. That's when an unfortunately timed situation is misinterpreted, and they are forced to pretend to be boyfriend and girlfriend. And who could guess what happens next? This book was so fun. I love YA romance. It's always so silly and lighthearted and sweet, and I know I can just always have a good time reading it. Not to mention fake dating sports romance is like my pinnacle of romance tropes. It actually took me a minute to really get into this book, and by a minute I mean like a few chapters, because the writing is super easy to read, and once I got into it, I didn't want to put it down. One of our main characters, Alec, has grown up in this town, and something that I really appreciated about this book is that him and his friends, as well as his parents and their friends, and like the general community did feel as though they all had history together and had had a life together before the beginning of this book. Dani's family dynamic added like a deeper layer to this book beyond just being like a silly little young adult romance, and her relationship with her grandpa was so sweet. Alex's family also had a pretty tragic event in their past, and I wish we delved into that a bit more. It's briefly touched upon that it still affects Alec to this day, but we just stay at a very surface level with Alec's character and how he struggles with what happened to his family. Honestly, I feel like both of their families could have had a little bit more. Ooh, it's just gone really dark. Cool. Honestly, I feel like both of their families could have had a little bit more time and focus spent on them throughout the course of this book, but you know, Dani's character was also really easy to like. I feel like she has a lesser represented experience of struggling to make friends. One, because she has moved around a lot, but two, because she has dealt with being bullied previously. So throughout this book, we kind of watch her come out of her shell and learn to trust these new friends that she's making, which she hasn't done in a long time. I also would have liked to have a little bit more development between Dani and her friends, but again, this book does unfortunately contain a third act miscommunication. I saw it coming. I just really wish it didn't. It's a bit of a double whammy. There's like two aspects to the miscommunication slash third act conflict, and one of the miscommunications is about their fallout from when they were kids, which I feel like should have been resolved much earlier in the book for them to have gained real feelings for one another. I just got a notification that my storage is full, so I need to wrap this up really quickly. I will say I loved Better Than the Movies, but I did think that the whole music slash soundtrack to my life thing that Liz had going on was unique to that book because it was Liz's special interest. It's implied that Liz is Alec's cousin and that he's picked up this habit of like associating music with certain things happening in his life from her, which is great, and I don't have an issue with that. It's more so the fact that, like in Better Than the Movies, this is a fake dating trope. Two main characters are frenemies. The guy intentionally tries to get rises out of the girl throughout the book as like a little banter thing, and the guy does a sport but feels pressured to do said sport and isn't really sure if that's what he wants to do. So there were just a few too many similarities where I was like, it just felt a little bit too familiar. I haven't read any of Lynn's other books other than Better Than the Movies and Fake Skating, so I don't know if this is something throughout all her books, but it is something I'll be keeping an eye out for in the future, just because I'm not sure how I feel about reading the same recycle book over and over again. All that said, I still adored this book. Dani and Alec are so cute, and the only time I ever get invested in sports is in sports romance books. I will be on the edge of my seat, anxiety coursing through me over a fake team in a fake game that are words on a page. Whereas real life, could not care less. So I gave Fake Skating 3.75 stars. Just a fun, cute book, and if you loved Better Than the Movies, then definitely pick up this book. So they are all the books that I read in September and October, and now I need to wrap this up real quick. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My art Instagram, my Goodreads, my Storygraph are all linked down below, as well as my Ko-fi. If you would like to support me, that would be very much appreciated. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you all next time. Bye!